I'm more or less an academic, right? We produce knowledge, and hopefully the knowledge will equip and empower the students and beyond the walls of the classroom, the entrepreneurs and people out there to pursue their gifts and talents and abilities, but also understand the environment that we are living in and the business demands and challenges of becoming an entrepreneur. We throw these words around, but there is also the failure side, in the sense that people start businesses, they want to become entrepreneurs, and they fail, they sometimes get bankrupt.
Turn around. Turning point. Yeah. He's a turnaround. Hello and welcome to Springboard, your virtual university. My name is Albert Okran, welcoming you to Ghana's foremost developmental program and that place where the greatest minds in the world converge. Springboard is brought to you by the Springboard Roadshow Foundation in partnership with MTN Ghana, the Enterprise Group, and the Ghana Growth Program, a collaboration between Mastercard Foundation and the Springboard, along with our other partners. Our media partners on this broadcast are Joy 99.7 FM, Joy News, and the graphic cluster of newspapers. Today we push on further in our quest to understand talent, the discovery, the development, and the deployment. We'll try to pin down a golden triangle today of creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship, and how that pipes into this whole journey of talent discovery and especially its deployment. I'm very glad to welcome once again into the studio my co-host, Jesse Ejafon. Jesse, good to see you.
Good to see you, sir. It's great to be back.
Yes. This is getting very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, based on the feedback from previous editions, it would seem that we are traveling a journey together.
Yes.
Does it feel that way to you?
Well, actually it does. And I've always believed that longevity is very important. Consistency is very important. So for those who started this journey with us, and we've marched on for weeks. And the good thing is that we've brought individuals who've walked their journeys also, who are reinforcing the position that we held from the very beginning. Challenging it at times, but I think it's been very helpful.
That's the part I love the most, that you can get to hear somebody's story and say, I can find myself in that story.
Yes, indeed.
It's real.
It's been brilliant.
We are very blessed to have in the studios our guest for today, somebody that I have been tracking for some time now, and he comes very highly recommended from people who have also been on this show, people like Professor P.K. Richardson, he's a resident scholar here. I mean, he walks in any day and he's home. And our guest for today is Professor Joseph P. Eshun. He's a junior. Let me add the junior. Okay. I want people to call themselves junior and they grow old. They still call themselves junior. So Professor Joseph Eshun is a United States Fulbright scholar based at KNUST, packing 25 years of experience lecturing different universities in the USA. Prof, good to see you.
Thank you very much, and I'm glad to be here.
Yes. You're here partly because you've written this very powerful, is it a textbook?
It's a textbook.
Managing change through creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. JC and I call it the golden triangle.
Oh, yes.
A good description.
Don't forget the managing change.
Yeah.
Through creativity, innovation,
So
and
golden triangle for managing the change.
Yes. Correct.
Let's start from the basics of this conversation. We've been talking about talent. Why does a change become necessary?
Change happens with or without your help. Whether you contribute to change or not, it happens. Let me give you a quote 2,000 years ago from the Greek philosopher Heraclitus. He said, change is a constant, and no man steps in the same river twice. Because when you do, you are not the same man, and it's not the same river. So based on that premise, we have to learn to capitalize on change, because if we do not, change will continue, it will persist, it will thrive, and it may leave us behind, and that may have consequential effects. That is why the fundamental reason why it's imperative to embrace change, be sensitive to change, and then capitalize on change. So that is the premise for change.
I guess change has always been there. I mean, from the days of Jesus Christ, from the days of the Old Testament, right from creation, there's always been change. But would you say that the past decade or so have been, especially since COVID, would you say that the world is changing at a far more rapid rate than it used to be?
I will even go before COVID. Just as in the 16th, 17th, 18th century Europe, the Renaissance, powered the rebirth of learning, many scholars, commentators, researchers are saying that we live in an entrepreneurial age, a creativity age, and an innovation age. So, and this has obviously persisted, emerged in the last 50 years or so, towards the end of the previous century. So in other words, the change that we are experiencing now is unprecedented. And it incorporates different facets of change. Technological change is a big deal. Social change is a big deal. Economic change is a big deal. And even political change. And all of these facets of change have been unleashed on us as societies. But unfortunately, many leaders, individuals, even corporations do not know how to manage the change. And I can go into stories of major global companies, individuals who did not embrace the change and were left, bankrupt because of the lack of change.
I found something quite interesting, because it seems as if the flow is a one flow triangle, that it must move necessarily from creativity to innovation to entrepreneurship. Does the reverse also work? As an example,
that's a very important question.
Yeah.
It's not a linear process, because somebody can be creative, bypass innovation, and then establish a business from the creativity. But you still have to make sure that from creativity to entrepreneurship, the recognition or identification of the opportunities are there in the marketplace.
And is that the innovation?
And then it may not be necessarily new, but let me give an example. Let's say you know how to play the piano and you are great at playing the piano. Piano playing is nothing new. But if you recognize that you can make some money out of that in a club, or these days you go to restaurants and people are playing piano in the background, you can make money from that. You recognize the opportunity. But there's no innovation around that. On the other hand, most people come up, they are creative, but then innovation is where the market validates your creativity, so to speak. And then move to the next step, which is entrepreneurship, by making sure you have a systematic business to support that innovation and creativity. But it doesn't have to be linear, like I said.
Let's take my friend Joshua.
Yeah.
My friend Joshua is an incredible piano player. So let's use the piano.
Okay.
So Joshua plays the piano. That is a talent.
Correct.
Joshua develops his skill. He develops his talent, his piano playing to the next level. That is a skill.
Yes.
A talent that has been developed.
Yes.
Then Joshua realizes that playing piano regularly or normally is just normal play, but he wants to take it to the next level. So he begins to get ideas about playing some piano pieces that you can put on YouTube for people to play at dawn in their homes to inspire them.
Yeah.
That is creativity.
Yes. No. Creativity. Has Joshua developed any new techniques in terms of playing the piano? Or is still using Handel and Tchaikovsky's model?
Okay. So the crazy idea that I can do a dawn thing is not creativity.
It's creativity, but you see, that means that he's now leveraging the dawn broadcast or something.
An idea that if I can do a new product,
yes,
that people can play in their homes, in the comfort of their homes. I'm not there, but on their phones, at dawn, it can give them a piano experience when I play a record.
That may not be new, but if the market, the people who are going to consume Joshua's product are relatively new, then it becomes creative for Joshua.
That's the point I'm driving.
Okay, good. So then
it's a new audience, a new product you can create.
Yes.
At that point, it is creativity.
Yes.
And you see, innovation is when he actually goes ahead to implement it
in the marketplace. Somebody has to have value to your new idea.
Great. So one more step, and then I'll ask Jesse what I'm saying.
It makes sense. Yeah.
So the next step is Joshua actually doing the recording and putting it out there. And people consuming it at dawn and saying, whoa, this has never been done before.
Great.
That is innovation, correct?
That is innovation.
Ultimately, the final step in this golden triangle is not just the people enjoying the thing, but Joshua having a model where they pay him either digitally or something for the service that he does. Then it becomes a business, and that is entrepreneurship.
Correct. So because entrepreneurship has to do with the recognition or identification of opportunities to introduce a new product or service in the marketplace. Right? So Joshua has to, in addition to his creativity, in addition to maybe his experimentation, coming up all those new skills, he has to recognize that there is a commercial or economic opportunity for me in the marketplace. Not everybody who may be happy with Joshua, but some people, a segment of the market may be interested in what Joshua has and pay money to buy it.
Wow.
Then Joshua will have made a business out of that. If these people, you have a website and these people are subscribing, paying you monthly for access, Spotify, then Joshua has entrepreneurialized his creative and innovative product.
Right. You see.
So I'm thinking of innovation.
Yes.
Is innovation also not possibly an end in itself? Because there are individuals who believe that they can create new distinct things in the market and offload it immediately without having to necessarily walk themselves into and as you yourself say now, a full entrepreneurship journey where they must now go and struggle to sell. So is it possible that I could be an innovator of ideas? I innovate and the innovation is an end in itself, and therefore entrepreneurship can also be a baseline for my innovation.
Definitely, because number one, innovation, like I said, is the introduction of a new something, product, service. But you can implement it or introduce it in the marketplace and then stop right there. Right? The business will probably help you commercialize it, but you can also license your idea. Then somebody will take it and take it somewhere and commercialize it. Then they pay you royalties, obviously, for your invention or your innovation. So many people create new things, but then they transfer it to other entities who may have the scale to sell it for them. So you can end as an innovator, but you not become an entrepreneur in terms of taking the opportunity and making it a business.
Fair. So so let's create a 5-part process.
Yeah.
I've got a talent.
Yeah.
I sharpen it into a skill.
Yes.
Then I creatively package it.
Yes.
Let me call it out like that.
Yes.
And then once I do that, I find a niche problem in the market and it becomes like an innovation. And then I started a business and I became an entrepreneur.
Yes.
In your experience and in your book, where is the biggest hurdle? Where has been the biggest challenge for young people?
The biggest challenge is the entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship means that you have to have all the functions of the business working. If you talk about HR, you have to hire people to help you sell your product. That's talks about selection, screening of human capital. If you think about finance, you have to go to the bank, raise money to produce your product. If you think about the legal office, you have to make sure that you are not infringing on anybody's intellectual property and all of those things. If you talk about production, you have to have people who produce it on scale at the cheapest price. So entrepreneurship is basically the business, anatomy that will support your innovation. You see what I mean? Otherwise, you could come up with something new, right? And then basically relax and say, I'm an innovator. I'm not an entrepreneur.
I think that the point Jesse makes is something I experienced in my printing days. I mean, one day somebody wrote a very fantastic book, and loved ones of the person came to see me that the person had published a book that they wanted to launch, and they thought it would do very well in the market.
Mm-hmm.
And I sought audience with the author as well as the collaborators to understand the business plan, the model, what they're trying to do, just to contextualize how many copies will they print of the book. Just like your beautiful book here, 750 pages. The book was voluminous. It was about the history of a particular people. So the questions I was asking the collaborators, they couldn't answer. They brought the author. When I sat down with the author, I just asked one question: where do you see this book going? And I was asking purely from the entrepreneurial point of view. She said, I'm the last person who has this information. If I don't publish it and I pass, it's lost.
It's lost.
So the end game for me is preserving this information for posterity. End of conversation. Everybody understood clearly. Not an entrepreneurial venture.
Okay.
It is a mission to leave some rich body of knowledge as a gift to posterity. So there's no consideration about massively spreading it. Even one copy or two was fine for the person.
I see.
That wasn't the case with this your nice book.
No.
There was a certain minimum order quantity. If not, your 4 years of hard work will go waste.
Exactly.
I hope you broke even.
Oh, no. You see, I'm more or less an academic, right? We produce knowledge, and hopefully the knowledge will equip and empower the students and beyond the walls of the classroom, entrepreneurs and people out there to pursue their gifts and talents and abilities, but also understand the environment that we are living in and the business demands and challenges of becoming an entrepreneur. We throw these words around, but there is also the failure side, in the sense that people start businesses, they want to become entrepreneurs, and they fail, they sometimes get bankrupt. So we tend to emphasize the rosy outcomes. People make money and we can call their names, but we forget that it also comes with a lot of hard work and discipline.
We'll come to the critical success factors. But
yes.
Once this program is based on talent, I guess it's only fair to ask you, you've traveled across the world, you've lectured in different places, you've met different cultures, different people. How big is a person's talent in terms of determining your ability, your worth, your impact in life?
Talent is big, and let me go to the scriptures for a little bit of guidance. The scriptures say, the Bible says, a man's gift will make room for him and bring him before great men. I think it's in Proverbs. A man's gift. Who gives the gifts? And in the New Testament, the scriptures, discuss your gifts, your talents, and your abilities. So, most of us are born with innate gifts, talents, and abilities. And even if you do not know God, it's God trying to tell you that because I have sovereignty, because, I made you using scriptures, these are the gifts, talents, and abilities that I have placed in you. So think about it. We don't choose our parents. You don't even choose your siblings. You don't even choose your date of birth, right? You are born with it. So some way, somehow, I believe God is trying to communicate with you that there are some choices you don't have. There are also some choices you have. And I've given you these gifts and talents and abilities as a way of getting you to be a productive member of society through your gifts and talents, right? So first and foremost, to discover your gifts, see what you are good at. Let me even move from Bible language to your skills and your competencies and your knowledge. What do you do well that you found out that you were not born with or you were born with? Now, remember, with skills, you can even develop it. Somebody doesn't know how to play soccer, but with some discipline and rehearsals, you can. So you first basically start with what you have. And sometimes people can tell you, you are good at this. And sometimes if you don't use it, you may not even discover the gifts that you have. Let me use my life as an example. When I was in primary school, my teacher, who became the president of the Ghana National Association of Teachers some years ago, made me do plays. I didn't want to do plays, right? So, but I will read scripts, memorize them, and perform in a play. This is primary school. So I believe that she prepared me in a way for public speaking.
Right.
Right? And lo and behold, some years later, I started as a Sunday school teacher, in the church. Then lo and behold, I became a professor. So I have been doing public speaking, but going back to decades ago, I think she was instrumental in basically sort of cajoling me in that area.
Do you remember her name?
Say it again.
Do you remember her name?
Do I remind my teacher?
Do you remember her teacher's name?
My teacher's name? Oh, yes. I visited her last year.
Wow.
If I tell her, you know her, but I'm not. She's a public figure. Okay. If I tell her, everybody will know, but I'm not.
Shout out to her for helping discover your talent.
Yes.
All right. This is Springboard Entrepreneurship University. This is a conversation about talent discovery, development, and deployment. But in this particular edition, we are looking at the what we call the golden triangle of creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. How these come together to help you manage the changing scenes. We'll go for a break. When we come back, this will help us to explore the critical success factors. Yeah, you've seen the talent. Yeah, you started a business. But what must you do to avoid the bankruptcy that Prof talks about? What must you do to ensure that
I hope it's not too pessimistic.
Oh, it's a reality. How do you ensure that the business will keep going from strength to strength, and if I may add, from glory to glory? So this is brought to you by the Springboard Roadshow Foundation in partnership with MTN Ghana, the Enterprise Group, and the Ghana Growth Program, a collaboration between Mastercard Foundation and Springboard Roadshow Foundation. Let me bring you what we always call the enterprise advantage tip. No one wants to lose a loved one, but if you are a policy holder and you lose a loved one at home, what do you do? Or if you are home and a loved one unfortunately passes, what do you do? The first person to contact is a deceased medical doctor and the Ghana Police Service. That is the recommended action. If the cause is unknown, the police would have to be informed to issue the coroner's papers signed by a magistrate, which authorizes an autopsy to be done. If you are in doubt or you require help, please call Transitions to guide you through the process. This is brought to you by the Enterprise Group and their number 030-263-4777. Email info@myenterprisegroup.io. Enterprise, your advantage. Let's go for a break. When we come back, how do you stay in the game and keep going from strength to strength? Please don't go away.
Good business means seeing the possibilities and maximizing opportunities. Making sure you have a responsive support system backs your business goals. A partner that gives you a stable platform with reliable connectivity and seamless solutions, and better understands the tools required to take you to the next level. With so many moving parts in running a business, we do our best to provide you with some stability. The only kind of stability you can find with MTN Business Broadband, the fastest and most reliable internet provider in Ghana, making sure you stay ahead and stay connected, because we understand what makes your business tick.
Sign up today on broadband.mtn.com.gh or call or WhatsApp 0244 308 111.
MTN.
Whether it's 1924, 2024, or 2124, we've always known that you are driven by your sense of safety and well-being. It is what drives us to see you through from start to finish, from small to big. And in the last 100 years, as you have evolved, so have we also expanded to serve you in many ways. From cradle to grave, with expertise in insurance, life, pensions, properties, health, and for those beautiful memorable goodbyes. It's 2024, and in all our markets, our pedigree is recognized, our strength respected, our expertise valued, and our solutions sought by all who desire an advantage in life. Experience the time-tested and truly trusted 100 years legacy of Ghana's oldest insurer. Take charge of your future now. Insurance, life, pensions, property management, funeral services, health insurance. Enterprise, your advantage.
Learn something new every week and be inspired by innovations, impact, and success stories of individuals making strides in the agricultural, agribusiness, technical, and vocational skills sectors on Ghana Grows Ejuma with Arabo Kumsin and Yabitha. Join us this and every Thursday on Facebook at 7 p.m. at Ghana Grows, also at Comfort Okran A and at Albert N.E. Okran. On Fridays at 4 p.m. on Joy 99.7 FM and on Sundays at 5:45 p.m. on TV3. Ghana Grows is an initiative of MasterCard Foundation in partnership with the Springboard Roadshow Foundation. If you are a young person and you want to be a part of our various interventions, call or WhatsApp Ghana Grows call center on 0308 255 775. Follow us on all our social media handles. Ghana Grows Ejuma. Hope Day.
Welcome back to Springboard, your virtual university, and to this incredible conversation about creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. We're trying to see how these can guide us in deploying our talents profitably. Our guest is Professor Joseph Eshun, and I'm here with my co-host, Jesse Ejapong. This is brought to you by the Springboard Roadshow Foundation in partnership with MTN Ghana, the Enterprise Group, and the Ghana Grows Program, a collaboration between MasterCard Foundation and Springboard. Talking about the Ghana Grows Program, if you are a young woman, a young person, especially a young woman, thinking about opportunities to be creative and innovative and entrepreneurial in the agriculture, agribusiness, and ATV space, this is the number you should save and never throw away. It's the hotline for the Customer Service Center of the Ghana Grows Program. Just call or WhatsApp this number and you will find out several different opportunities that are available to young people interested in these sectors. So the number is 030-8255-775. Talking about innovation, there's a group of people doing something incredible called Born Grain. And guess what? They're doing dried fruits like pawpaw, banana, pineapple, coconut, and dried kelewele, instant for immediate consumption. That is exactly what you need.
Did you say dried kelewele?
Yes. It's part of innovation.
Fantastic.
I can tell you that the sector that is having some of the most brilliant innovations is the agribusiness sector.
I can imagine. We eat every day.
After this interview, we will take you on a journey. So if you want to buy the products of Bond Grain or you want to get them in quantity, you just call them on 054 90222021. 054 90222021. Just buy from them and promote made in Ghana agribusiness products. So Jesse, back to our conversation.
Yes. So recently I was at a program and I listened to a leadership coach speak about the fact that you can be prepared as much as possible. And when you land in a ring, like Tyson said, when the first punch lands on your face, it will throw your entire creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship module out of the window. So we've seen businesses fail. We've seen businesses succeed. Let's provide a context for success and failure, and then we can work on the success factors.
Okay. Simple terms. When a business succeeds, I believe it's because there's customer sustainability. In other words, the customer is still coming back to buy the product or the service. Then obviously that means the customer demand has been validated in the marketplace. When a business fails, there could be several reasons why the business failed. It could be lack of scaling in terms of producing enough, economies of scale, producing enough to drive the prices down and your costs down. So there are 1,001 reasons. Sometimes it's just bad leadership. It's just maybe the timing in entrepreneurship. We have something called the window of opportunity. In other words, there is a season and a time where there may be some customer demand for a particular product. And that season...
Stay with that point a bit.
Yeah. There may be
an open, and you don't seize it.
If you don't take advantage of it, capitalize on that window, and it closes, then the opportunity ceases to exist, right? So let me give you an example. For instance, nobody buys black and white television anymore, right? When we were kids, this is what everybody wanted to have. Then came color television, and the window of opportunity for black and white television is closed. The same way with different types of products. And it's a little bit broader than that in terms of not only let me use the big word, technological obsolescence of the product, but also the factors that may support the products, development, marketing, commercialization, and all of those things are fact. For instance, if you have a patent, the government grants you, a certain number of years, and after that, the secret behind the products is the public domain. All of these can cause a business to fail. But success means that people still like your products and are willing to spend money to purchase your product. To me, that's business success, as simple as that.
But the point ultimately about what ensures that a business stays on track and does not fail.
Yeah. And it's not a business, even a church, right? I always think a church is like a restaurant. You have a menu, and consumers may not like everything on the menu, but they may like your praise and worship, they may like your preaching, they may like the fellowship, they may like the prayer, different things on the menu. But as long as the consumers are being sustained in one of the items or all of the items, hopefully on the menu, you are in business. As soon as you deviate from the menu, and of course, I'm making it so simple. It's not as simple as that. As long as your business is viable, the consumers will support you. When somebody introduces a new product, another innovative entrepreneur, and consumers feel that their value added is in the new product or not the old product, they will transfer their resources and buy the new product. And unfortunately, the old product will become obsolete and nobody wants it.
There was a time when Christ preached and gave people food, and the crowd
They
increased.
followed him for the food.
Then the next time when he said they should eat his flesh and drink his blood, the Bible says they all looked at him. You realize that actually, so
The burgers have stopped. Yeah, the hamburgers have stopped. Yeah, now we are in a different territory. So the same principle.
Right. When you mentioned, interestingly, when you mentioned the fact that a business, when it innovates, draws people to itself, expands its opportunities, and that ensures that it stays in business.
Yeah.
Here was I thinking also, you mentioned also that if it deviates from the menu, you call that a menu. So in an attempt to be innovative, can a business deviate and get it badly wrong?
Yes.
You try to innovate, but the change you bring, instead of increasing your leverage, rather makes things worse.
Yes. There is a place not too far from Wall Street called Silicon Alley. I went there this was sometimes 2002, 2003, just before I graduated from Columbia. Apparently, it's a big building, and a few of the Silicon innovators were there. That same building had Cornell University, Carnegie Mellon University. These are the top IT people in that building, Silicon Alley. I went there because my advisor had an office there, and then one of them told me that they had innovations ready for the market, but the market was not ready for it. As soon as he said that, I thought about Moses in the Bible. There's a scripture in Exodus that says that Moses supposed that the children of Israel will understand that God was using him to bring deliverance to them. They didn't understand him, and because they didn't understand him, they rejected him initially until the rubber met the road years later.
So it's a mistimed innovation.
It was, yes, the timing of innovation is also critical. In other words, there are new things that innovators and entrepreneurs can put on the market, but they are so dramatic, or let me use the word radical innovations, that we are not ready for it.
The next logical question then is, how do you feel the pulse points of the market to ensure you don't get it wrong? Because it almost sounds like a science.
There's the science part, but a lot is trial and error. Think about it.
Not research.
Research will give you the basic knowledge, accumulation of knowledge, but a lot is trial and error. Let me give you an example. When we were kids, if you remember, the VHS, remember the VHS days, where there was another version, Sony created the Betamax. It was a smaller tape, and then JVC came up with the VHS. Engineers, electronic engineers, sound engineers, performed these experiments in the lab, and all of them concluded that the Sony Betamax was superior in sound, audio, every quality, video quality, but the VHS won the market.
Why?
Consumers, the market, somewhere, some ways we don't know, embraced and adopted VHS.
Are you saying that years after we still don't know why?
Oh, well, we know why, because there was a preference. And sometimes in business, there's something called the first mover advantage. But it doesn't always work. It's not a science. It doesn't always work that way, because, before Facebook, there was MySpace. Before Microsoft Word, there was WordPerfect. I asked my student, did you ever hear about WordPerfect? So no, we never heard about WordPerfect. But WordPerfect was the first software.
I remember very well.
You remember? Thank you. You are my generation.
just for your own personal perspective. So I remember talking to a company that said they sent their best client a discount voucher, and we're expecting a thank you letter. That was a Christmas present for being their best customer, and they sent them a discount voucher, thinking that they will get an appreciation letter and more business the next year. They said they did not even get an acknowledgement. that next year, all your tickets, you will enjoy a 10% discount, and they did not get an acknowledgement. So the curious guy goes to the person to say, oh, we sent you our topmost Christmas giveaway, and you did not respond. And the guys smiled. They said, every executive we send to a meeting in London, in Manchester, in Liverpool, or in Paris is going to do a multi-million-dollar deal and must be in that meeting at all costs. So instead of giving us a discount, if you give us an assurance that should one airline cancel as late as an hour to the flight,
we can get a flight.
Pull all the plugs to put our executive on the next flight, we would have been willing to pay you even more.
That is insight.
Yes. So we don't need a discount. What we need is assurance. And it reminded me of a day at Dallas Airport, Comfort and I coming back home to Ghana, and we were surrounded by paparazzis. We thought we were the ones being filmed, only to realize that Wayne Rooney was just next to us in the queue.
Who was in the next
Wayne Rooney and his wife Colleen.
Who's winning?
Wayne
footballer.
Footballer. At the time.
So it was them, not you.
We were not the celebrities, the paparazzis were after. Because returning from that is infamous a trip to the UK. And just at that point, they said, oh, the flight has been cancelled for this and that reason. We turned and the guys were not there. Just next to us was the next airline counter. They didn't even ask, how will we get a refund? They were offering a hotel to sleep. They didn't even ask. In seconds, they were at the next airline. They bought a first class ticket. And then flew their bags and they were going. How we were trying to figure out. So assurance in this instance. Yet you were thinking discount.
Yes.
But it also means you need to know your customers' taste and preferences. Don't assume that because they are buying your product, that's it. Because remember, as for customers, the next new product that is superior to yours, they will spend their money on that. So you always have to engage the customer. Don't assume that the fact that they like yours, means that you have it. Let me give you an example. Years ago, my oldest daughter was in a daycare right on the campus that both my wife and I taught. But guess what? The daycare, it's a walking distance from my wife's office, right? The daycare closed at 5 and my wife's class ended at 5 p.m. So by the time, a professor, you finish class, students want to talk to you. Indeed. So she needed at least 15 to 30 minutes to go to your office, get her stuff, go to the daycare, pick up my daughter and get home. She was almost late. She was never there at 5 because her class closed at 5. And this is 5 minutes walking distance on campus. And the first 3-4 times, the way she said the lady looked at her, the professor said, you are late again. She said she couldn't stand it. So we had to find a daycare a couple of miles away from my daughter that had, closed at 6 to make that decision. So in other words, don't assume that the fact that I'm buying your product means that I like it.
Just let me come to you. This is home grounds. This is home grounds in terms of the brand promise. I mean, just to segue on this, do we sometimes make assumptions about what make people happy without delving into the reality? I mean, how does feedback help us to get a better sense?
I think that so first there's the inside generation bit of brand behavior, but it's also sometimes what you might call the CEO gut feeling about something. And typically, if you work for multinationals, you might get a feel that something is working magic in a different country. And that the science behind it is workable. And you know very well that it will not take more than 5 years for that trend to catch up within say, an African setting. Now, making a decision to be the first in Ghana, as an example, will not be grounded necessarily on the fact that the Ghanaians have asked for it. So sometimes you might bring that product, test it in the market, in a cohort, and then that testing leads you to innovation into a product. The second bit is now taking a look at what your customers' requests have been from the time past, and then building a product based on what the customers have been asking for. So one innovates ahead, and the other innovates to fix. But you must do both. So my real question is, at what point in time do you decide to innovate ahead? I mean, we've seen the likes of Apple innovating ahead to disrupt the market. We've seen a very, in quotes, crazy innovation to get us into space. I don't even know what we will do there one day, but there seems to be a very wild drive for innovation in terms of that particular space. So at what point in time do you say, I know the market hasn't necessarily asked for this, but I feel it that it would work?
Okay, that's a very good question. Let me use the US example. Among the Fortune 500 companies, the leaders and managers spend, all things being equal, spend about 80% of their time or resources, even investment, servicing and existing customers because they pay the bills for today. But you spend 20% of your time or resources innovating about the future. The idea is that, think about it, the 80%, the customers you are serving now, some are going to grow old and die. And your market share will decline. But if you invest the 20% in generating new customers, with time, they are not your customers. The emerging or no customers will become your customer. And so it's a dynamic process. Let me give you an example. When we were growing up, Mercedes could be afforded only by the very rich, right?
And famous.
Yes. The rich, yes. And affordability is key. So you grow till you are 50, 60, or somebody high level in the corporation, then you can afford a Mercedes. But Mercedes realized that it takes too long for you and that market is small. So they developed the 1 Series in Germany, smaller cars with the same brand for the college age. And for them the idea is that once we teach them when they are in college, when they are in the early parts of their career, we can strengthen the brand such that in 20, 30 years, when they are the top managers, they will still demonstrate a preference for Mercedes. So they call it catch them young, right? But think about it, products, go through their own cycle. So again, the idea is that you spend about some time, not all your time, developing, innovating, because innovation is about the future.
Yes.
Right? Whilst you spend some time to servicing existing customers. So that is the balance.
Let's talk about competition. It's a very, very, very big thing.
Yeah.
So you feel you're good, you're comfortable, but somebody appears next door and is shaking the market at its very foundations.
Yeah.
How does competition play into this whole conversation about the person with their talent, the person starting a business, the person trying to commercialize what they are doing? How does competition play into how they should manage change in these theories?
Let me start with something Oprah Winfrey said many years ago. And in the talk show business in the US, Oprah's name is a household. She's won so many awards. And they ask her, why are you? And she just was a new kid on the block and just dominated the talk show space. She said that she doesn't look at her competitors. She's always thinking about what to do new. She doesn't have time to look at competitors, right? And that Oprah was so innovative. You could go to her studio ready to sit down and hear her talk, not knowing she's chartered a plane, waiting and say, hey, let's all go to Chicago and have shows, right? She was able to go advertise this and say, okay, you want to advertise your Mustang? This is the real story. I don't know whether you heard it, where the people went to a show, about a couple of hundred of them, all of them walked away with a brand new car. Now think about it. People talked about it so much, about the Ford Mustang, so much so that it was worth more than the millions they advertised. So it's good to look at your competitors, but sometimes it limits your exposure to great things that you could do on your own if you put on your creative and innovative cap. You see what I mean? So what it means about competition, the world out there is big. The key thing about competition is differentiation. And because let me use even the world of cars, for example. Let's talk about luxury cars. Mercedes, BMW, Lexus, and Volvo, right? People buy Volvo, and this is research confirmation. People buy Volvo for the safety and the security. People buy BMW for the speed and the performance. All of them luxury cars. People buy, Mercedes for the status, the prestige. People buy, Lexus is a new kid on the block who's trying to get all the three as a hybrid. So the world out there is big, right? You, instead of competing or getting into the game of competition, think about differentiating your product or your business with a distinctive attribute or quality that will drive customers. You don't need all customers. You need a segment of the market to make your business thrive.
So I'm coming to you for the last question as we wrap this up. But just to follow up on your last point, you were able to tell 4 vehicles, each one and their unique selling proposition.
Thank you.
And a 4th one that tried to amalgamate all 3 into one. And you started by saying all these are based on research.
Yes.
How big is research and data in making management decisions in entrepreneurship?
Okay. That's a very important question. Because research is knowledge. You don't have to reinvent a wheel when it has already been reinvented, which means you start with the benefit of proven principles and knowledge that can help you build. Of course, it depends on the sector, but especially in technology, in biology, in the physical, biological sciences, the knowledge is amazing. For instance, right here in Ghana, we have some plants that are not in places in North America. Let me give you an example. Moringa, all of a sudden, is now very popular in the US, right? Palm oil is very popular in the US, right? Because I don't know whether you heard Dr. Oz on years ago, and people have created capsules out of that because it has something to do with some cardiovascular benefit. So the point here is we have it in our environment indigenously. Can we conduct some research to be able to add to the knowledge and commercialize it? We don't have to wait for people to come outside, tell us what is in our own backyard, and basically build some businesses out of that. So research, knowledge is important. And this is where the cultural and intellectual gap between the university and the society has to be closed so that we can develop products out of that.
Oh, Jesse.
Yes, I think this is really good. My view would have gone back to the beginning, because for many young people out there, it's difficult for them to do things without seeing whether somebody else has done it. And I'm going to your Oprah example. Oprah will be able to afford to do things without checking what's happening in the environment. But for the people who are watching this program, sometimes their trigger to do is based on that which they've seen. And young people sometimes look for that little motivation that something is working here, and I jump onto it. So maybe I want to pick a word from you on there's nothing wrong in copying shamelessly. Yeah. What's your view on that?
There's nothing wrong in what?
Copying shamelessly.
Oh, there's nothing wrong. In fact,
there's also qualified as innovation and creativity.
There's imitation.
Okay.
Imitation is copying,
yes.
Right? And so, I've seen textbooks with Xerox engineers splitting apart a Canon copier to figure out. It's called marketing intelligence. Reverse engineer marketing intelligence. There's nothing wrong with that, But don't stay there. Try and improve, upon somebody's product so you can become a little bit more efficient, right? And again, remember I talked about intellectual property. The government grants you a patent or maybe a copyright or maybe a trade secret. Its patents are, valid for a certain period of time. So after that, anybody with the formula can produce from the pattern and then sell. So again, you can copy, but remember, you can also improve on the copy and then take it out there.
What will be a one take out from today's conversation? Just say, what will be the one thing that you are carrying away from today's conversation?
I think be innovative centric, because I think in my view, once I've identified the talent, even the sharpening of the talent may require some innovation. Readying the talents would also be for you to look within the market. Everybody's playing football, but what kind of play must I have? Or everybody is driving public speaking. What should be my innovation? And then you begin the process itself of creativity. And in my view, I would pick creativity and relate it to how do I creatively package my talent, so at least I can present it as bespoke within the market. And the next one for me, again on innovation, is how do I consistently improve my product, my process of delivering the product, innovate around it. And finally is how do I stay sharp as a business person? And what kind of entrepreneurship model makes sense? Is it a digital entrepreneur where I'm online selling my products and things like that? So I think innovation is the strongest thing for me in this conversation.
Okay. Absolutely. Thank you very much. And Prof, your closing thoughts to this audience that is listening keenly and taking down notes of how to manage change through creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. What will be your closing thoughts?
My closing thoughts are the fact that, unfortunately for us, in this period of time, youth unemployment is it's a pandemic, so to speak. And entrepreneurship, innovation, creativity can create a mechanism for students aspiring to get jobs to become equipped and empowered with knowledge, skills, competencies to be able to become an employer of yourself first, rather than having the employee mindset that somebody is going to hire me. So this is like self-interest.
Okay.
So take advantage of that. Students all over the world are starting products and businesses. And so the opportunities are there for you.
That is the word from Professor Joseph Eshun. He's saying that considering Africa's burgeoning youth population and the fact that unemployment is on the rise, you should be interested in the conversation about not just your talent, but how to profitably deploy it and also manage change through creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And Jesus says, in all this conversation, one thing, innovate, innovate, and innovate. I can tell you one thing we will do next week. Continue talking about talent. Continue bringing different perspectives to bear. What is our expectation? That something we see, something you hear every single week will incrementally prepare you even better for the days, the weeks, and the months ahead. Prof, thank you so much for making time to be with us.
It's a pleasure and a privilege having me here. Thank you.
Yes, and let's do this again.
Good.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
As always, thanks.
Thank you so much.
So on behalf of Team Springboard and our partners, MTN Ghana, the Enterprise Group, and the Ghana Growth Program, itself centered on a collaboration between MasterCard Foundation and Springboard, on behalf of our media partners, Joy FM, Joy News TV, and Graphic Communications Group. My name is Albert Okran, saying God bless you, and God bless you.